Number 1. How to recognize surveillance. There are situations when you are sure that someone behind you is following you. This can happen on public transport, in a coffee shop, or in class. If you turn around, the person will, of course, pretend not to have followed you and look the other way. There's a little trick that can help you see exactly who is watching you. Just yawn. Yawning is contagious. When we look at a person yawning, we very often start yawning too. That's how our brain works. Turn around a few seconds after you yawn, and the person watching you will be yawning at that moment. That's how you recognize surveillance. Thumbs up if you now feel like yawning while watching the video. Number 2. Eye contact. You probably heard the expression, the eyes don't lie, the eyes are the mirror of the soul, and so on. If, during a conversation, the person evades an answer, keeps silent, and does not want to give out important information for you, do the following trick. Just keep standing still and stare into the interlocutor's eyes. At this point, you will feel very uncomfortable and, as a consequence, will keep talking. This will greatly increase your chances of hearing the information you want to get. Moreover, your stare and silence will make the interlocutor speak honestly. He will think that in fact you already know the truth or some part of it, and lying in this situation is useless. By the way, write in the comments how often you lie, or you prefer to always tell the truth. Only write honestly, otherwise it won't be interesting. Ask for a favor when a person is tired. Doing critical thinking works much better when we are awake and full of energy. When someone is tired, he will most likely agree to comply with your request, since refusing and finding a reason for it is a much harder task for the brain. You can use this trick if you want to get something from your colleague. Just ask it at the end of the day. If you like one of your colleagues or friends, but are not sure if he or she has feelings for you in return, try a simple trick. The moment you get together with several people and someone tells a funny joke or story, look at the person you like. If he or she looks at you at this moment, then most likely he or she has feelings for you in return. Psychologists have noticed that we tend to look at the person we like at the moment we laugh, so feel free to use this trick. Number 5. The phone trick. Try approaching one of your friends while he or she is talking on the phone. If there is something in your friend's hand at that moment, just take it. There's a 90% chance the person will give you the item and probably won't even remember later that he gave it to you. As we know, our brain is not good at multitasking, and when we are very busy with one task, such as talking on the phone, we may have little control over what is going on around us. That's why it's not a good idea to talk on the phone while driving or in other situations where total concentration is required. Number 6. Open body language. Gait, gestures, and postures are the first things that catch our eyes when we begin contact with a person. At such moments, most people slouch, cross their arms, lower their head, keep their hands in their pockets, or make other gestures, closing themselves from the interlocutor as much as possible. And this is a normal reaction when we are worried and anxious. Subconsciously, we try to protect ourselves and therefore resort to closed body language. Of course, it is difficult to arouse the sympathy of interlocutors at such moments. Subconsciously, he feels threatened and that you are hiding something. So, at such times, it is better to control yourself and your body language. Give yourself an advance directive to straighten your posture, not to put your head down. Take your hands out of your pockets. If you sit, don't cross your arms over your chest, and try to keep your posture as relaxed as possible. Over time, it will become a habit, and you will easily evoke sympathy from the first seconds of communication, even with strangers. Number 7. Layered lies. If you want to expose a liar, use this trick. Throughout history, a huge number of criminals have been caught using just this trick. When an unfaithful spouse tries to lie about where he was last night, he will usually only think through the surface layers of his lies. He will only lie about what he saw or heard. People tend to only use their senses of sight and hearing when lying. Let's pretend that the unfaithful husband claims that he spent last night with friends in a bar watching a soccer game. If you ask, for example, what the dish tasted like that the unfaithful husband claims he ate last night with his friends at the bar, there is a good chance he will get confused and give himself away. Besides, you can dig deeper and ask who won the game, who scored the first goal, and who was set off from the field. Most liars don't think through their lies in great detail, and it gives them away in the end. They begin to stammer and get confused. Number 8. Next door rules. In TV shows and movies, you can often see a suspect being interrogated somewhere in a dark corner of a room and trying to squeeze as much information out of him as possible. But in fact, professional intelligence officers prefer a completely different tactic. They know that the person will tell much more if he feels comfortable. In a situation of stress and pressure, many of us, on the contrary, close ourselves off and are not capable of a normal dialogue. In addition, stress blocks the memory, and in this state, we can forget even basic things. If you need to get important information from the person, try to create a comfortable environment for him. Speak calmly without raising your voice. Don't sit too close to the person. By violating his privacy, you make him nervous. Another important aspect is to have a door nearby. If a person sees a door, he subconsciously feels he has a potential opportunity to escape. Thus, he becomes calmer and more open. Number 9, to convince a person that he makes his own decisions. It's the easiest way to show this trick on children. Almost all children hate to eat something fresh and healthy, but they need it. Instead of asking if your child will eat broccoli for dinner or not, it is better to ask if you should put 3 or 4 pieces of broccoli. Now, the child will only choose from the options of 3 or 4 pieces of broccoli, but not the options of eating broccoli or not eating it at all. Plus, having made the choice, the child will have the full feeling that he decided himself rather than being forced to do it. The best part is that this trick works on adults too, so you can try it. Number 10, divide information into 3 or 4 blocks. Want to dramatically improve your memory right now? Then listen carefully. Unless you have a phenomenal memory, like the vast majority of people, you can remember 3 to 4 blocks of information. 3 to 4 names, 3 to 4 sentences, 3 to 4 numbers, and so on. You can immediately forget everything else within 20 seconds, so don't try to learn much at once. Divide information you need to learn into 3 to 4 blocks and repeat each block several times. After that, go from one block to the next, and so on. Number 11, show your palms more often. If you want to gain your audience's confidence faster during a public speech, use the palms of your hands. When gesturing, make sure the person sees your palms more often. This trick seems strange, but it really works. It most likely has to do with our ancestors who lived hundreds and thousands of years ago. Those times were far more dangerous than today. Empty palms meant that one was not holding any weapons and was not going to do any harm. A lot has changed since then, but we still have more confidence in a person when we see his palms. Number 12, remember the names. When you meet a new person at work or at a party, be sure to remember his name. Then use the person's name several times during the conversation. For example, when you ask him or her a question, when you call a person by the name and mention him or her during the conversation, your interlocutor starts to feel more important and special, and that's a nice feeling. So, your interlocutor will treat you with more sympathy. You can use the same trick with people you know well, such as colleagues or superiors. The more often you call them by their name, the more they will like you. Number 13. Speech as a verbal tool can help in recognizing a lie. It can blow a liar's skirt up. Not just specific words, but the way we say them. Everyone has his or her own rate of speech and intonation. If a person is used to speaking slowly, a sudden increase in the speed of speech is a sure sign of excitement and lying. Besides, many people tend to raise the voice in stressful situations. However, specific words can sometimes be a clear sign of lying, such as a parasitic word. If in a conversation your interlocutor suddenly starts to use words such as if, like, kinda, or other many times, it indicates its excitement and possible lying. Of course, if you know that a person has always been prone to use such parasitic words in his speech due to a lack of vocabulary, then for him, they will not be a sign of lying. Another sign of lying can be the use of synonyms for words that are not typical of the interlocutor. If a person always says the word wife, the unexpected use of the word spouse in a sentence is a detail out of the usual behavior. In short, unusual details in behavior and repetitive actions from them are primarily important for determining lying. In order to establish for certain that a person is not telling the truth, you need to analyze and look at the whole picture. Everyone is different, and our behavior can vary greatly. It's a fact that all lie, but everyone does it differently. Number 14, start small. This trick is useful both when interacting with other people and when doing something alone. If you know you have a big important thing to do, there's a good chance that your brain will resist it with all its might, and there's no way you can get started. Then it's good to start small. For example, tell yourself, I'm only going to do this for 20 minutes. There's a good chance that in 20 minutes, having plunged into the work, you'll continue when you started. Besides, you can divide one big task into several small parts and do it step by step each day. The same technique can also be applied to other people. Let's assume that you are a manager and you have several subordinates. You can simply instruct them to perform a particular task. But there's a chance that the productivity of the employees will be low. It is better to divide one big task into several parts and tell the employees, let's start with this one. This way, it will be much easier for employees to get started and they will cope much faster with the final task. Number 15. Speak quickly so your interlocutor is more likely to agree with you. How you communicate your ideas to others is just as important as the ideas themselves. If you speak quickly, your interlocutor simply doesn't have enough time to process the information you're delivering, and that way, he'll agree with you more quickly. This trick is often used by scammers, so it's important to be aware of it. When they call on the phone or in person, they try to speak as quickly as possible and skip long pauses. That way, there's a better chance that you won't have time to figure it out and get caught in their trap. This rule works the other way as well. If you have a loyal and trusting audience in front of you, speak more slowly. That way, people will have more opportunity to think about and accept the message you're delivering to them. Number 16. Many people experience the excitement of being in front of a large group of people, and it's absolutely normal. Even if you don't have to make a speech, you just have to stand there and be quiet. To calm down and feel more confident, use the following trick. Choose one point. It can be a detail of the interior or a specific person in the crowd and concentrate on it. This way your attention will be focused and the excitement will not go away completely, but you will feel more relaxed. Number 17. Don't be afraid to make pauses. You've probably often heard people start to fill pauses in the speech with parasitic words or sounds like and so on. Let me guess, you do it yourself when you're thinking about what to say next. First, it shows a lack of vocabulary. But most importantly, it shows the person is unsure what he is saying, and your interlocutor begins to believe your words less or listen less carefully. This is especially important when it comes to making a speech in front of a large number of people, or just a very important conversation. Instead of filling your speech with irrelevant sounds, just make pauses. Most people find it intimidating, of course. We all have the same uncomfortable feeling when silence suddenly starts to fall during a conversation, but you don't have to worry about it. When you make small pauses between sentences, it will only fuel interest in what you have to say next, and you'll look more confident in people's eyes. Number 18. Make eye contact and nod. This is a trick you need when you want a person to like you. Of course, it is not a question of looking into the eyes of the interlocutor without looking away. This way, you can just scare the people, but during the conversation, try to make eye contact more often so you will inspire confidence. In addition, do not forget to nod when the person tells you something, so you make it clear that you carefully listen and understand what the interlocutor says. This way, you will generate his sympathy because we all like to be listened to. Number 19. Unusual behavior can help you spot a lie. Many people know that if a person touches his face, hair, crosses his arms, or fidgets when answering a question, it means he is lying. But this is an incorrect interpretation of gestures. People are much more complicated than that. In order to find out which gesture signals lying, you need to observe the person for a while during the conversation. For example, crossed arms over the chest. There is a misconception that if your interlocutor folds his arms this way during the conversation, either he is lying or he doesn't like you. That is, he tries to close himself off from you by folding his arms. However, this gesture is also called self-embrace. We often cross our arms over our chest when we watch a movie or think about something. Avoiding eye contact is another myth. It's like if a person averts his eyes when answering a question, he is lying. But in fact, when we process information, it is an absolute natural action. We move our eyes up or to the side when we're thinking hard about something. It's absolutely normal. Therefore, specific actions cannot be universal signs of lying. The sign of lying is a deviation in behavior. If you have known a person for a long time and he usually doesn't touch his face or avert his eyes in conversation, but when answering an uncomfortable question begins to do so, he is likely lying. If you are seeing someone for the first time in your life, you can start the conversation with distracted topics, those where the interlocutor has no reason to lie. During this time, you observe how he sits, what gestures he uses, and then watch to see if this behavior changes at any particular moment. This effect works in reverse as well. If the person tends to touch his face with his hands or fidget, but he sits still when answering specific questions, he is most likely not telling the truth. Blinking may be another sign of unusual behavior. Most of us never think about this simple action, even though we blink 10 to 20 times a minute. When a person doesn't think about something, he doesn't try to control it. Details that the interlocutor has no control over can give his lies away. During a conversation, you can pay attention to approximately how often the person blinks. While he is trying to lie, the blink rate is likely to change. He will blink much more often or much slower. In general, the human face is an excellent source of information. There are several dozen muscles on the face. It's clear that no one can control them all, especially at moments when the brain is engaged in such complex activities as lying. Pay attention whether the person is frowning, wrinkling his forehead, or pressing his lips together. The slightest movement of a muscle on the face, which is not typical for a particular person, is a sure sign of excitement caused by lying. Number 20. Use the word because more often. Imagine you are standing in a queue at the supermarket. There are several people ahead of you, and you only have one chocolate bar in your hand. Of course, you want to get through without waiting in the queue. If you ask others, "Could you let me go first?" you will very likely get a negative answer. But if you add the magic word because to the request, for example, "Could you let me go first because I'm in a hurry?" In this case, you're up to 90% more likely to be let through. In the late 1970s, the Harvard psychologist Ellen Langer conducted a similar experiment with cues to the copy machine. In the first group of people, a person who wanted to jump the queue and make copies quickly simply asked permission from those ahead of him. In the second and third groups, the person added the word because and added some reasons to his request, even the most ridiculous ones. As a result, in the second and third groups, the probability of the person being let through increased by 93%. People around you are much more willing to agree with your ideas when they hear at least some justification. You can easily apply this technique when discussing ideas among colleagues at work. If you want your idea to be the one accepted by the superior, just use the word because and give some explanation. Don't forget to thumb up this video if it is interesting to you. Besides, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell to always be informed about new videos, and of course, leave your comments below the video.